So, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be, let me just find my agenda here. Hang on a second. So, yeah, today we'll be giving all of you some time to be together and talk about Christmas resources and to share some. We'll have some time to talk about some mission interpretation, storytelling, uh, sharing about what our church is up to from Pastor Keith. Um, we'll talk about resources coming for December 27th, and then some details around the the Boy Scouts and the budget, and any just future planning for fall theological, believe it or not, a year from now or a little less, and Synod Assembly. And then Chris has some things to talk about middle school, and we want to talk about the Minnesota Give to the Max campaign. So, a full agenda today. Most of that is going to be a minute or two per item, but most of the time we're going to give you to talk to each other about opportunities, ways, strategies, ideas, adaptations for Christmas time celebrations and worship. I'm going to begin with a devotion that using a text that I shared on Facebook. Um, Very familiar text to all of us, of course, Psalm 46. Uh, you are, of course, familiar with that psalm, psalm on which a mighty fortress is based. It's a psalm that reminds us that God's people were not unfamiliar with chaos and with worlds in turmoil. That when God's people experienced what they didn't understand then, but just knew was sickness or plague, there was usually no treatment, and many, many more people died than even what we're seeing with this pandemic that we're living through. Longevity of kingdoms and stability was the exception rather than the rule. Uh, Social unrest was to be expected. The psalmist writes, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of the city. It shall not be moved. God will help it when the morning dawns. The nations are in an uproar. The kingdoms totter. God utters God's voice. The earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord. See what desolations God has brought on the earth. God makes wars to cease to the end of the earth. God breaks the bow and shatters the spear, burns the shields with fire. God says, be still and know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations. I am exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Just share a prayer, video prayer reflection. Amen. Well, let's get started with, we'll go into some small groups and I'll ask you to check in with each other to start with. Just a quick update about how you're doing. You might consider something as simple as a weather report, what the weather's like out there and what it's like in here. And then I want to give you a question to think about, and then we'll bring you back. But hang on, I have to find the question. Yeah, so I want us to think about and share some um, information. First of all, I think Chris maybe has some Christmas resources to share before we go into small groups. So, Chris, are you ready with that?
Yeah. I want to first share with you some great resources that the First Third of Life team has of the ELCA has a website, a resource website. And it's just too good to not share with you all. So it's ministrylinks.online, and they're all vetted by the ELCA First Third of Life team, their children's minister, youth ministry, and young adults. And you can find links to this on the ELCA website, but the ELCA website is not super easy to get resources on. And so they've created this own, and they have great Advent and Christmas resources. And so there is just so much for Christmas programs, worship resources, sanctified art. This is something that we lifted up with our Advent program that Pastor Keith and a whole crew of people, Advent at Home. I've spent a lot of time on Pinterest over the years, gathering up resources for families to use for Advent. And then I loved this list of Advent and Christmas books. There's a children's book around Blue Christmas and blended Christmases. I just think it's a great, great resource. If you get to the bottom of the Northern Lights, what email that happens on Wednesdays, there's a resource box, and each week I lift up a resource. And a couple weeks ago, I lifted up this faith formation resource. It's just great, and it's been vetted, so you don't have to worry about the theology being wonky. Then I want to introduce you to someone that is a joy to work with. In my work with middle school and senior high youth gatherings in our synod, not everyone is a joy to work with. But Jonathan, yes, I know, Pastor Grant is quite shocked at that. Pastor Jonathan Swenson, who is rostered in our synod, has a great ministry, and he shared with me some resources that would be great for you all to use, especially in this time of online worship. So I want to lift up Jonathan. The floor is yours.
There we go. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Do I have like a minute or 2 minutes, or what are we talking about, Chris? 2 minutes. Okay. Real quickly, I was at Mount Carmel for several years. I'm no longer there. I am part of the synod, but I'm living down in the Twin Cities. I'm on leave from call. I left thinking I was going full-time with my drama ministry. I travel around the country doing one-man, multiple character dramas, telling the stories of Scripture in fresh and hopefully faithful ways. I'm a trained actor. I'm also a Lutheran theologian, and it is very Lutheran. It's safe. It's user-friendly, what I do. So I've got a Christmas drama that normally I come and do live. Now everything's virtual. So I've got a DVD that I'm allowing and offering to congregations to use, to download, to use a one-time for a Sunday morning or a midweek Advent service, or maybe it's just something you send out on Christmas Day. One less thing to have to plan. It's all ready to go. It's exactly an hour long, about 5-6 characters. There's a message there. They start singing the carols and then we kind of fade out just to keep it moving. Some of the characters are funny. Some of them are very serious and deeply meaningful. People laugh, cry, and it's just, I think, a faithful retelling of the Christmas story. So if you want more information about it, you can check out paraphrasetheater.com, and theater is spelled with an R-E, or email me at Jonathan P. Swenson @gmail.com. I normally have a professional fee for it when it's live. I'm offering it for about a pulpit supply fee, or maybe a little bit more. If you can't afford it, I'd rather just get it out to you. I know things are tight stewardship wise, so whatever you can pay, we'll talk about that. I want that to be able to work for you if it works, if it can fit into your ministry plan. So if you have questions, give me a call. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I will put links to all of Pastor Jonathan's stuff in tomorrow's Northern Lights too, so make sure you check that out.
It is a joy to work with Chris as well. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Jonathan, and thank you, Chris. Good to see you, Pastor Jonathan. We've spoken on the phone, but I haven't had a chance to see your face, so I'm glad to hear that you're good to work with too. Excited about that. So great. Well, let's continue. We want to talk about Christmas, and I thought there's way more wisdom in our collective heads than any one. So we're going to go into small groups, and I want to divide our thinking into 3 different categories. So ways to assist families, individuals, households to celebrate Christmas at home, to faith practices, devotionals, fun ways to share the story, whatever it is, but just some creative ways to enable and equip families to do what many families had to do in this part of the world a century or so ago when they were settling here, and find ways to lift up and celebrate the Christmas holidays at home. So we're going to start with that, and so remember, in this first time together, if you would go into your small groups and also share how you're doing, and then introduce yourself, share how you're doing, and then go ahead and share any thoughts, ideas, brainstormed resources and ideas you might have around the question about equipping families, households to celebrate the holidays and lift up the story of our incarnate God at home.
All right, I will open up the groups and I will put into the messages your things so you don't have to feverishly write down notes. So here we go. They should be open.
Group, you didn't finish checking in with each other. So let's go back in with finish checking in, and then let's share once again that question. If you didn't get a chance to address it, brainstorm ideas for equipping faith at home, for people to have an old-fashioned pioneer Christmas and share the story and celebrate Christmas without being able to gather. Share those ideas, and then the next question would be for let's see,
how to make online worship special.
Yeah, right. So, and if you exhaust that area, move on to those of you that are doing mostly or online or hybrid, how to make that a different than every other online Sunday experience. Okay.
Sounds good. Bishop Bill, how long would you like for this chunk of time?
What did we have the last time?
I did 11 minutes.
Yeah, let's go 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. I'll give you a better warning this time too. All right.
Thanks. Now to just check in here, if you would be willing to lift up one or two great ideas that you heard in your group that we all could benefit from, and just feel free to speak right up. Remember, you have to unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, remember *6.
So parking lot hymn sing with bonfires.
I love the bonfire idea.
Bonfire idea came up in our group. We all, a couple of the smaller churches talked about giving every family a devotional with a poinsettia, and also care packages with some, say, like candles and the words to Silent Night, and making sure that it's delivered to every household, that everybody feels that they're included.
Yeah, we had the idea too in our group of having the Christmas story on some kind of a scroll or parchment. Could be kind of fun. Parking lot worship with hymn sings and perhaps flashlights in place of the candles. What else?
I didn't get to be in a small group, but I've been digging through Christmas resources a lot. And one I saw and liked was a Christmas caroling. So you go up to people's houses and you just play Christmas music really loud and then give them like packets of hot chocolate. So because, you know, virus won't be expelled through your speakers. So a fun way to like, you can plan to carol through your community one of the nights and make sure you pick all the same songs so it's not songs.
Can we sing outside? Is that okay around campfires and stuff?
I believe as long as you're socially distanced and you know,
Masked, like the
masks are a
webinar
good idea.
yesterday, with the Minnesota Department of Health and faith leaders, you know, said that outside and masked is the safest way to sing. They still don't like super recommend it, but if you're going to, that's the safest.
Did they say anything about in-person worship?
They didn't really get to that too much because it was like the spectrum of sizes of congregations and types of congregations was so wide.
The governor is supposed to be speaking at 2:00 now with an update on what they're recommending. And I wondered, Bishop Bill, if you've heard anything or if anyone has heard anything in advance, what they might say to faith groups about gathering and so forth.
They have already released it. My husband saw it over noon, and the thing that relates to us the most is weddings are going to be limited to 50 from now until in December. It goes down to 25, I believe he said.
Oh yeah.
And then bars and restaurants have to close early, and they're saying for any like family gatherings, less than 10 people and no more than 3 different households.
Mhm.
So we can
Hey,
interpret that however we want, I guess, for funerals and weddings and worship.
So yeah, nothing about worship or funerals. I've had several funerals and nearly 200, 2-3 times. So this is just not the time for that. But hard
No,
to turn
and
people away.
if you're getting pressure to hold events like that, especially now, and as we're basically, if you know, back when there was such a thing as we were, you know, when we actually had guidance and we thought of things as phases, or we at least theoretically were going to have guidance, we would be in phase 1 again and lockdown, and
Mhm.
certainly gatherings of 200 are unsafe. And if people are giving you pressure, and if I can be helpful, don't hesitate to
Yeah, thank you.
either throw me in or pull me in, or throw me under the bus, whichever one seems to work best. So Yeah, I would not, I think, to me, that signal of 50 weddings of no more than 50, to me is a signal to our worshiping communities that if you are gathering in person, certainly no more than 50. And also, and I appreciate the fact that in many of our communities where even there formerly were a lot of deniers and some conflict, that people are seeing what's happening and they're following the pace of their local situation and trending with the school, pulling back if the school is pulling back. And that seems wise. Encourage people to continue to do that if they need to be in, if you are in person, to monitor the local situation closely. And again, I'm willing to lean in if I can be helpful. I think someone was going to speak and I cut him off. I think it was.
I have just to share what we're doing with the Christmas program.
Please.
We're going outside the building. The kids will be masked and sitting on a flatbed trailer, and we're going to take it to various locations in the community. So it'll be in the grocery store parking lot and the hardware store parking lot and places where it's in public. And they will do a short program, sing songs, and then safely transport the trailer to the next site. And so it's a way to do the Christmas program, but bring it kind of to the community outreach. Kind of cool idea.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I was sharing in my former congregation, we used to do worship in a barn or in a huge riding stable. And we would never be able to gather as many people now as we did then, but that could be an interesting experience as well.
These ideas seem good for Christmas 2021 too, I think.
Yeah. Also, lots of our group had lots of talk about Advent, and especially taking seriously the many different ways that have evolved over the years to mark the days and the weeks during Advent. And just a reminder that we have resources in our Lord Stir Us to Dream to that end. There's some good instructions and devotional guides for that. Well, go ahead, Eric.
Yes, Bishop. I just wanted to share, there was a neat idea that I wrote down from our group. We talked about a spontaneous Christian pageant or a Christmas pageant at home, where maybe we, use the Gospel of Luke's reading and assign characters and give everybody and kind of a how to do this. So we would send it from the congregation out. This isn't my idea, but something that we're looking into. But then send it out to the families. And so, for example, you use that one sheet and it says, okay, so assign characters. You've got 5 minutes to find what you have at home to close yourself in this Christmas pageant at home. And, and it's something that they can take pictures of and do the reading. We already have the reading. We already know all the characters, but just help them organize that and provide an opportunity that they could videotape it or take pictures. And not only just have fun together at home in the spontaneous theatrical way, but then share it with others, share it with the congregation.
That's a beautiful idea. In our family, we occasionally can persuade the shy ones to play charades with us, and they always end up being way better at it than anybody else. So, it just sounds like something everyone could get into if they can be persuaded. What else? What else did you hear? Give one more, maybe hear one more idea.
One group just emailed me this that I'll share with you all. It's a reverse Advent calendar that you can do. I've participated in this in the past to gather items for a food bank. And then so you can, when our congregation that I worked at did this, we asked the food pantry what would be the best things and pass this out to people. So this is a great resource to do some service in your community as well.
Thank you, Chris. So just a reminder that we do have, we are going to be offering worship, a full worship service on the first Sunday after Christmas, the 27th. And that will also, I'll offer the sermon, and there will be a manuscript for that for those congregations that aren't using video, if that's useful to you. And that'll be a full service as well. And so we'll have that in your hands by the 22nd of December, no later. Also, remember that the online resource Lord's Tourist a Dream, which is also can be used, and I encourage you to consider using it as a stewardship opportunity. Again, doesn't have to be used that way, but it can be very effective that way, and it's sort of tailored in that direction. The 3 of the Sundays have worship, have sermons, and there's a children's Christmas program for the 4th Sunday. I'll offer the sermon on the sort of response Sunday or the 3rd Sunday in Advent. And those should all be available by, the first one is going to be available pretty quick here for the 1st Sunday. I know mine will be up by the 5th. And then I don't know when the one for the 2nd Sunday of Advent, but in plenty of time in advance. Let's just put it that way.
I just add real quick, Bill, that Pastor Brigida has the 2nd Sunday in Advent.
That's right.
And she
Yes.
will have hers, I think, ready to go. I know she's in this room with us, virtual room with us, I think on the 3rd of December. And the 1st Advent Sunday, which is Thanksgiving weekend, Pastor Larry Stringy will have his up soon, and he will be there. You will hear Martin Luther. He will be Martin Luther preaching on that Sunday. You might want to at least just take a look at them and see that there's opportunities to utilize those sermons, maybe not only within Advent, but in other occasions.
The Bible studies will also be on the website, all 3 of them, very soon. And I've watched the first 2 and they were amazing.
Yeah.
So make sure you look at those as well.
All of the resources by folks like Matthew Fleming and Grace Study Pomeroy, Larry Stringy, they're all tailored to this program and to our context. So I think you're going to, and they're great. You're going to find them really useful. So I want to move on. There was an email that went out regarding the Boy Scouts bankruptcy. And by November, I believe it's the 19th, there's a deadline for filing a can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically making a claim against the assets of the Boy Scouts. And if you had a charter with the Boy Scouts, this can be a vehicle to protect your congregation from the possibility of future liabilities related to potential sexual misconduct lawsuits that could arise in the future. And so we do have an FAQ out there. If you actually look at the form, it's a little confusing because the form presupposes that you already have some outstanding claims, some financial liabilities that are owed, or some receivables that are owed to you from the Boy Scouts. But this claim, if it's not filled out, you'll have no claim on future assets. And so the ELCA General Counsel suggests, and our own Synod attorney suggests, just filling it out and put undetermined for the amounts, just an undetermined amount. If you have a charter, have had a charter with the Boy Scouts of America. Questions about that? Chris, what did we want to talk about with Fall Theological and Synod Assembly?
Just as I know this time of year, you are all working on budgets and figuring out all of that. So for your 2021 budgets, plan as if for budget-wise that things would be in person. Fair Hills will be a little bit cheaper than being in person, but we will have some costs because of technology. And
Synod Assembly will be a little cheaper than person.
Yes, that's what I meant. And then Fall Theological, we haven't started planning that yet, but maybe by that time we can be together.
Fingers crossed.
God willing, and the creek don't rise. So for budget things, just budget like COVID isn't a thing for those synodical experiences. And then when it's a little bit cheaper, it'll be awesome. So
With Synod Assembly, oh, sorry, Chris. With Synod Assembly, just so look inside the sausage being made of synodical ministry, but we actually have to make a profit on Synod Assembly because it's the profit from Synod Assemblies that pay for bishops' transitions. So, and there can be quite a bit of cost. You know, we did this one pretty inexpensively, but it wouldn't be uncommon for a bishop's transition to cost well in excess of $100,000 after you pay out. Have you some overlap and you pay out severances and new staffing and all of that. And so we don't have a lot of capacity to build up those kinds of resources. Most synods do that by banking the small profit that we make at Synod Assembly. So we still have to make a profit this year, and we have to make up a little bit for the profit that we didn't make at the last Synod Assembly. And so, but it will be less expensive because meals are a huge cost in Synod Assembly as well. And obviously we won't have those, but that'll be somewhat offset by the need we still have to rent some facilities. We still have to spend more money on technology. So if we budget the same amount, you'll be happy when you actually see the cost because it'll be a little bit less.
And when you pick your voting members, make sure that they have the capacity for technology. We will be voting using an online voting service. And so make sure that we'll do a lot of training, but that they have the capacity / willingness to learn that technology. So yeah, those are those notes. The first middle school youth gathering video is out there. I hope you enjoy it. The next two should be coming out in the next 2 weeks. They're about 45-ish minutes a piece. Some education, some worship music led by our Synod camps, and some learning and talking about how we're connected in Christ during this time. Video 2, I'm excited about. We have our Dr. Reverend Aaron Stamula-Folkerts giving a little spiel on how to take care of yourself, self-care for middle schoolers, which is good for all of us. So I'm excited about those. And Bishop Bill, you want to talk about Give to the Max?
Let's first hear from Keith briefly about mission interpretation.
Thank you, Bill. Chapter 4 of Acts, verse 20 is these words, this verse. When Peter and John were challenged by the rulers, elders, and scribes assembled in Jerusalem, they were ordered not to speak about Jesus. They responded by saying, "We cannot help from declaring what we have seen and heard." That's the verse that was chosen by mostly our lay people from across the synod that are mission interpreters, regularly pulling up a chair at the mission interpretation table. And over the years, they've engaged in council visits and other engagements of sharing the story, hearing the story. And just like Peter and John, we have stories to tell of how God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, through the power of the Holy Spirit, calls, gathers, and works in with and through us as church together. And so of the 220 plus congregations, these mission interpreters have visited in excess of 150 over the last number of years. And one of the pastors even wrote a little testimonial. Pastor Mary, thank you. Gil wrote this in one of the flyers that was put out last year. And she wrote a thank you letter and said, it was a valuable connection for our leaders to experience. They were giving a personal connection to our synod that was with someone who lives in our own conference and who is a layperson. The caring conversation deepened their relationship with you. Most importantly, the Bible conversation informed us as partners together in mission. And it was appreciated. Thank you for that, Pastor Mary. We've heard that time and again. Jean Rains, who is in her 80s, an incredible leader in our church, and Haley Coalfield, who is in her mid-20s, not too far removed from graduating from Cordy College are co-coordinators for mission interpretation. Where I go with this is that our own Synod Council, and they're meeting on October 10th, were equipped to do council visits in this COVID time, most likely not involving in person, although that may be if it's safe, protocols followed, but most likely through a Zoom invite or to even be there through a speakerphone in the middle of the table to engage up to 70 plus congregations in our synod. And they are, as I speak, about making those connections with congregations they were assigned, and receiving back some good reports of those interactions. So I just wanted to lift that up to you, and I'm imagining some of you have already received that contact and perhaps arrangements being made, if not already, or you will be receiving contact. And then I would end with what I'd ask Chris to put up on the shared screen is just a shout out to you and an affirmation of the difference you make in so many ways in your pastoral ministry. And that includes mission interpretation ministry. And this is a resource, if you will, this one page providing some suggestions and guidance for how you, in partnership or in tandem with your congregational presidents, could make a space and a place in a Synod Council meeting to have a generative conversation and intentional decision-making about your mission support going forward in 2021. And a letter to this effect was just sent out from Bishop Bill and myself, acknowledging that as of the end of third quarter of this fiscal year, we have 148 congregations out of our 222 that have made mission support contributions that we're so thankful for. And in the 3 quarters of this fiscal year, our mission support income is 2.9% behind what was given last year at this time. And we are currently 17% behind budget for mission support this year. And there was a special request that we made in that letter that we also celebrate the fact that many of our congregations, perhaps yours, are doing well or better than expected financially. And if that is the case for you, could your congregation help fill in the gap for congregations that are struggling with an additional mission support gift that is over and above your pledged support? And your contributions would be very appreciated before our fiscal year ends on January 31, 2021. So just to put this before you, it's an update. It's also an encouragement, but most of all, hear the thank you and the acknowledgement of the difference your pastoral ministry and heart makes. And it's not unnoticed. It is greatly appreciated. And there are people, including our co-coordinators in mission interpretation ministry and myself, that stand ready to come alongside and be supportive in whatever way you would find helpful. God bless you.
Thank you, Keith. And I'm going to be sending out that same ask, similar wording in an email from me to you and to all of our presidents, just to, we'd like for us to finish the year strong as a synod so we can go into next year strong. And I think we have the capacity and the opportunity to do that. So thanks for all that you continue to do. I know they're wearisome. I know you're weary at times. Everything's harder. And I'm not so sure it's COVID fatigue as much as adaptation fatigue. Everything, you have to think everything through that much more. And that continues to be the case. Now you have to decide whether we're going to stay with our current plan or back up. And everything's harder. And it's wearying. And yet you continue to do faithful ministry. People continue to be generous and to live out the gospel in the ways that they're capable of. So Minnesota Give to the Max Day is coming up, and November 19th. We are going to participate in that. Our goal is $60,000 or more. The gifts that are given to Minnesota Give to the Max will be divided among 3 different areas, each representative or a way of living out our core values, our core value of faithful in relationships. So that 1/3 of our contributions will go towards rural congregational vitality. If you think about the roots of our church, they're deep in the soil of rural and agricultural life. And for many, many years, the flow of resources in this church was from those communities into towns and cities where Lutherans were starting new congregations, and it was those vibrant, prosperous rural communities that were supporting and lifting up the whole church across the United States. And now many of those churches are struggling. So I think faithful in relationships demands that we come alongside those congregations. And so we're thinking about things like collaborations, hubs, cooperatives, ways in which direct grants that can to help ways for plans congregations have for their vitality. So 1/3 will go towards that. And the next value is authentic in our welcome. And now an authentic welcome is not hanging a sign that says everybody's welcome. It is really about forming relationships and then welcoming the actual neighbor and not the imagined neighbor and their authentic gifts. And to that end, we as a synod are partnering with, for example, with Pastor Grant Vanderford there and the folks at Bethesda to open up a new worshiping community among people struggling with homelessness, and that with, by, and of people struggling with homelessness, building relationships, welcoming the gifts, and over time gathering people around word and sacrament. And we're going to do the same thing in partnership with Bemidji State University Lutheran Campus Ministry and First Lutheran in Bemidji and the congregations in that area to deepen relationships and gather a new worshiping community among Indigenous young people. So that's the other 1/3. The last, our value is love making a difference. And we know that many of our rostered ministers come out of seminary with a crushing burden of debt, that they do amazing ministry, living out the love of Christ every day in their communities. And in some cases, their ability to do that is mitigated by the burden of debt. They're unable to say yes to places they want to serve because they have to attend first, to the decisions about salary. And so alleviating that debt frees up those rostered ministers to have salary be not the primary consideration, but to be one among others and to go where they genuinely feel called. And so we think it's important. Love making a real difference, helping alleviate that debt burden. So that will be the other 1/3, and that will supplement the endowment funds that we use each year to distribute grant monies. Questions about that? Well, thank you so much. We've gone a little over, and thank you for hanging in there. God's peace be with you.